please at least let me meet with Miss Luna. There are some things I must say to her. That won't work either. Kutu waved his hand impatiently. Luna is too naive. How could she possibly outwit someone like you? A few sweet words from you could easily sway her into doing something foolish. As her father, I will never allow that to happen. So just give up on that idea. What if? Perseus slowly raised his head, gazing at Kutu. I must see her today. Kutu laughed coldly. Then why don't you give it a try? Lord Cthulhu, I request to duel you. If I win, you must allow me to see Miss Luna, Perseus said calmly. A duel. Kutu couldn't help but burst into laughter. No one has dared to extend such an invitation to me for many years. What reason could I possibly have to refuse? But he held up a finger and shook it. You, a nobody, dare to challenge me to a duel? You're not worthy. So what do you want? Perseus asked. It's simple. Don't say I didn't give you a chance, Kutu said calmly, surveying the wolf pack. I'll pick 3 of our pack's best fighters. You have to defeat them all before you'll be qualified to fight me. Can. Happy. Kutu laughed heartily, raising his arms and shouting. Did everyone hear that? This human brat wants to challenge our Red Moon tribe. I only need 3 wolf cubs. Who's willing to fight? I. All the werewolves, regardless of age or gender, raised their hands simultaneously, looking menacing. Everyone's very enthusiastic, huh? How about this? To be fair, you can choose your own opponent. Kutu looked at Perseus. I'll trouble Lord Kutu to do the work, Perseus said calmly. Picking a bunch of old, weak, sick, and disabled people won't convince the public even if you won. Instead, you'll be looked down upon. All right. Kutu nodded, his sharp gaze sweeping across the entire area. Blackhead, Shattered Fang, Wolfsbane, engage. Immediately, 3 werewolves stepped forward, looking at Perseus with provocative eyes. Perseus took a look and realized that the 3 choices were quite sophisticated. Blackhead is a wolf cub about the same age as Luna, baring his teeth and looking fierce. He looks at Perseus with eyes that seem to regard him as a rival in love. Breaktooth is a burly werewolf, and he looks like a real tough guy. Wolfsbane looks old and thin, like a consumptive ghost on the verge of death. But in terms of aura, this guy is the most dangerous of the 3 wolves. Blackhead goes first, followed by Broken Tooth, and Wolfsbane last. Kutu commanded sternly. Everyone else, retreat 50 meters. Soon, a duel arena appeared. Perseus and Blackhead stared at each other from a distance of 20 meters. Blackhead bared his teeth and threatened him while making various provocative gestures. I don't quite understand this provocation, but must be quite vicious and vulgar. The duel must not result in casualties. It must end when the point is reached, Kutu announced from afar. But such rules obviously don't work on young, impetuous, and reckless guys like Hey2. Fortunately, Perseus doesn't need to be afraid of this kid. You bastard. How dare you make a move on Miss Luna? Blackhead said angrily. She's not some human brat like you should touch. I'm going to teach you a lesson today. You like her, right? Perseus smiled. Blackhead suddenly turned bright red, pointing a trembling finger at Perseus. You. What nonsense are you spouting? How could I possibly like? Blackhead fainted instantly. Kutu quickly came up to check on him and found that Hey2 had just fainted from being too excited. Cthulhu gave Perseus a disgruntled glare and declared him the winner. The werewolf crowd immediately erupted in uproar, hurling insults and accusations at Perseus for being despicable, shameless, and winning unfairly. Perseus remained unmoved. He was thick-skinned enough to handle it with ease. Anyway, we won. That's a win. Let those guys say whatever they want. Round 2. Perseus faced off against a massive werewolf named Shattertooth. Broken Teeth sneered. As expected, there isn't a single good human being. You actually won using such despicable and shameless means? But that's all. Today, I'm going to kill you. The Broken Teeth rushed up. To be honest, Perseus was very disappointed. This character, Broken Tooth, is purely strength-based and intimidating, but his agility and speed are terrible. Using wind magic to speed up his dodges of several rounds of Shattered Tooth's attacks, and finding no surprises, Perseus waved his hand, blowing Shattered Tooth's bull-like body into the sky. After spinning around like a roller coaster in the sky, Broken Tooth let out a pitiful scream, crying for its father and mother. Finally, Perseus gently placed it on the ground. With broken teeth and foaming at the mouth, he was already unconscious. In the second round, Perseus won again. This time, there were no onlookers shouting or cursing. They just stared blankly at the broken teeth, their faces grim, clearly not wanting to experience that feeling of being blown away by the wind. Round 3. After Broken Tooth was carried away, Wolfsbane walked over, yawning and looking drowsy. The next second, Wolfsbane appeared where Perseus had been standing a second earlier. His cloudy eyes flashed with surprise as he looked at Perseus in the sky. Perseus looked solemn. Then Wolfsbane chanted a spell and also flew up. This old guy is actually a magician among werewolves. Chapter 30, You Passed. After witnessing Wolfsbane's skill, Perseus finally understood. Of the 3 opponents Kutu chose for him, Blackhead was purely for laughs, and Broken Tooth was just there to make up the numbers. Only the third one was specifically designed to test his true capabilities. Kid, do you really enjoy flying in the sky that much? Wolfsbane said sinisterly. Old man Wolfsbane, are you a wind mage? Perseus asked. If you're not blind, you should be able to tell, but I'm not only good at wind magic, so be careful. The Wolfsbane, accompanied by a sharp whistling sound, rushed up at incredible speed, its claws gleaming coldly, aiming straight for Perseus's vitals. If Perseus is feeling good, this old man is extremely powerful even without using any magic and could easily take care of that big guy with broken teeth from earlier. Even though a guy like that isn't as tough as Cut, he's still quite troublesome. I wonder how many more experts like this are in this werewolf tribe. In terms of speed alone, Perseus found himself no match for his opponent. He tried to dodge at full speed, but the distance between them kept getting closer and closer. Since we can't avoid it, let's face it head on. Perseus took a deep breath and punched Wolfsbane. Wolfsbane may appear old and frail, but he is clearly a ruthless character who has been through countless battles. Putting aside magic, his physical abilities would absolutely crush Perseus. Under normal circumstances, his punch would not only fail to harm the opponent, but he would also lose his own hand. But unfortunately, under the watchful eyes of the wolves below, the 2 men's fists and claws collided at incredible speed, and then Wolfsbane looked pained and flew more than 10 meters before barely coming to a stop. He first hurriedly checked his hands to make sure his claws weren't broken, then looked at Perseus in horror. How can a human's fist be this hard? Wolfsbane shouted. Besides, your strength is not something a human of your size should have. It's magic. I used magic. Perseus showed his hands to the other person. Light magic? You know light magic. And that fist, it's earth magic. Wolfsbane could no longer remain calm. You can actually use 3 kinds of magic at the same time, and you don't even need to chant incantations. Kuta also witnessed this scene and heard what Longdu said. His brows furrowed slightly, then relaxed, then furrowed again. Perseus didn't correct the other person's mistake, fearing that the old man would question his existence. He knows far more than 3 kinds of magic. He knows 6. If Ivisa were given more time to develop, she could learn 8 different skills. In this world, there are only 8 types of magic in total. They are earth magic, fire magic, water magic, wind magic, light magic, dark magic, time magic, and finally, spatial magic. The first 4 types of magic are called elemental magic. Light magic and dark magic are collectively known as super magic. Time magic and space magic are incredibly powerful. They're known as divine magic. No matter how bizarre or varied the effects of any magic, it is actually just the individual or combined use of these 8 types of magic. Elemental magic is not simply a means of attack or defense. It encompasses many special effects. As long as one has a thorough understanding of the magic, one can use it effectively. Earth magic has the following special effects: petrification, creation, exploration, generation, hiding, earth travel, transformation, etc. The manifestation of the earth element is not limited to rocks and soil. Plants, minerals, metals, and all man-made objects, and even more broadly, the earth and mountains, are all elements of the earth. If you are proficient in earth elemental magic, it is only natural for you to turn a girl's clothes back into raw materials and fall to the ground, or to split mountains and shatter the earth with a wave of your hand. Fire magic has the following special effects: incinération, smelting, explosion, purification, etc. Not just flames, but everything that burns is a manifestation of the fire element. From a small piece of burning paper to a large lava rock at the Earth's core. Lightning, which seems to have nothing to do with fire, is actually also a fire element. Skip the water and wind elements. Super magic, though it sounds arrogant, doesn't necessarily mean it's stronger than elemental magic. Light magic, also known as holy magic, has the following effects: healing, resolving misfortune, strengthening, suppressing evil, purifying, etc. It's worth noting that both light magic and fire magic have purification effects, but they are actually two different things. Imagine there is a poor soul here, possessed by a demon. By purifying him with light magic, you are helping him exorcise the demon. By purifying him with fire magic, you're sending him and the demon to hell together. Dark magic, also known as forbidden magic, has rather sinister and unorthodox effects. It is generally banned, and anyone who uses it becomes an enemy of the world. Things like twisting minds, manipulating the dead, and casting curses are all forms of dark magic. Slave mark is also a form of dark magic, the only type of dark magic that is permitted to be used, but only slave trainers with official business licenses can learn and use it. Some effects of dark magic are similar to those of light magic, such as enhancement. However, while dark magic is more powerful, its side effects are extremely dangerous. Time magic and space magic now only exist in legends. In this world, magic, though wondrous, is not omnipotent. Even without a teleportation array, as long as the wind magic is powerful enough, it is possible to achieve a similar teleportation effect over a certain distance. Unlike some comedic isekai novels where adventurers can recklessly commit suicide and then quickly revive with full health after their teammates drag their corpses to any random priest, this is not the case here. Death is death. Once a person dies, they can never come back to life. Even when Ivisa was able to torture and kill gods in the later stages of the original story, she still couldn't resurrect her deceased relatives. Thinking about it, it's pretty boring, so we should cherish our lives even more. Perseus just used earth magic to make himself a sturdy pair of gauntlets and used light magic to enhance his strength. In fact, as long as you know enough magic and it's powerful enough, you can fight as you please. Now that wolf poison has seen through him, he no longer needs to hide it. This time, Perseus took the initiative. With a casual flick of his wrist, a dozen metal spikes appeared before Perseus, simultaneously shooting towards Wolfsbane under the enhancement of light magic. The sound of them cutting through the air overlapped, creating a terrifying spectacle. Wolfsbane shouted in a high-pitched voice in a language that Perseus couldn't understand, and hurriedly fled. However, he was certain that there wasn't a single good word in it. Wolfsbane is very fast, faster than Perseus. But they can't outrun these sharp cones that have been enhanced with power and speed. Once the target is hit, even if this old man is made of iron, he will still have a dozen or so bloody holes. Wolfsbane is indeed skilled in not only wind magic, but also fire magic. These two combined can also produce good results. Unfortunately, the wind from the Wolfsbane is not fast enough, and the fire is not fierce enough. It can neither escape nor be burned away. He was frantically running away while chanting all sorts of useless spells, but he could no longer keep up the act and was in a truly pathetic state. Now it was Perseus's turn to put on a show. He lay down in the air with his eyes closed to rest, while the metal spikes automatically chased after Wolfsbane. Wolfsbane let out a desperate roar, tinged with a harsh, sobbing tone. Just as it was about to hit, a deafening roar suddenly came from below. Perseus quickly opened his eyes to look. Kutu's already extremely muscular body swelled up by more than one size again. His entire body was covered in snow-white fur, and the muscles on his back and hands bulged high. His human head, which originally had wolf ears, completely transformed into a huge wolf head, making him look exactly like a giant wolf standing upright. Kutu, now completely wolf-like, leaped into the air, his height perfectly blocking Wolfsbane's path. Before Perseus could undo the spell, Kutu swung his claws and sliced the metal spikes into a pile of scrap metal. Kutu glared angrily at Perseus, landed on the ground, and jumped up again. This time his target is Perseus. Oops. The eldest brother is already in Hongwon. Perseus sensed something was wrong and quickly rose to a higher position, making the wolf's head below appear as a mere black dot. But this black spot grew rapidly, eventually transforming into a ferocious wolf's head. For a moment, Perseus wanted to continue flying upwards, but this was already his limit. He was hesitant to use offensive tactics against Kutu. Time flies. Perseus was grabbed by Kutu's single hand and held in his palm like a mouse. Even though he had used light and earth magic to maximize his body's defenses beforehand, Perseus still felt like his internal organs were almost squeezed out by Cthulhu.